have been started. We have a short, so welcome everyone to the Konecranes pre-silent call. We have some 30 minutes time for a Q&A. We have also prepared a short presentation, so I will just share it here in a bit, kind of summarizing the key events or happenings during the quarter. We have had several investor roadshows and attended also in several investor conferences. Here we have listed some of the most, let's say, frequently discussed topics during the quarter. It's very much around market environment, order book, group and segment margin development, margin improvement drivers going forward, capital allocation, then a lot of discussion around the port cranes market in the US, and also now after the US election. So talk around the potential impact of potential US tariffs as well as then M&A opportunity. And during the quarter, we also hosted an open to everyone investor and analyst site visit in the US at Georgia Port Authority in Savannah. So that was a great event. We have gathered here all the stock exchange releases and corporate press releases published during the quarter. And we have marked with an asterisk now those order releases that are linked to Q4. So there are also then some other order announcements, but they have taken place already earlier. I will just let some people in here meanwhile. And as a normal disclaimer here, so we don't publish all the orders we received in a quarter. So sometimes they come out later, and sometimes we don't get a consent from the customers. So one should not read too much into the order announcements during the quarter. But here they are in any case, and marked with the asterisk, those ones that have been booked now in Q4. With that, I think I will hand over to Teo, who will then discuss our demand outlook and financial guidance. And overall, before Teo starts, so we have not made any major changes in our messaging during the quarter and are not planning to make any changes in this call either. So this is more of a summary call and a Q&A opportunity for all of you. But with that, Teo, please go ahead.
Thank you, Kiira, and welcome all also on my behalf. I think Kiira more or less pointed the key point here already. So it may be a little bit boring message regarding this call as such. We do not have any particular reason to change the messaging or the storyline from what it was about 2 months ago in connection to the third quarter results. And the demand outlook that we can see on this slide is obviously the one that we showed at that time. And of course, the main point regarding industrial customer segment was that we are expecting the demand to continue on a healthy level. And then the additional color regarding the regions that we have been discussing, Americas being strong, EMEA a little bit depending on which country we are talking about, somewhat stronger and somewhat weaker, and then Asia Pacific could be clearly better. China is a little bit, let's say, on a lower level, and the competitive situation in China continues to be tight, as we have been discussing also earlier. And then when we take a look at the port customers, so there the long-term prospects related to global container handling remain good overall. So that is of course the basic commentary that we have been having. And then if you flip to the next page, so we have the financial guidance, and obviously no changes in this one either. So net sales expected to increase, and EBITDA margin, comparable EBITDA margin expected to improve in 2024 in comparison to 2023.
Just a small comment here. There's some background noise, so if you could mute yourself if you are listening to a music or having side conversations, that would be great. Or then I will just...
or then you will, yeah, exactly. But I think that these were basically the comments that we wanted to give to begin with, and I think we would be ready for the Q&A.
Yes, and I think I can now stop sharing. Sorry for the change of the view. Johan, please go ahead.
No music from this side, but I was just wondering a little bit. You highlighted these bigger orders here, and you talked about you have big orders in the pipeline for the port business. But these overhead cranes, were they for the industrial crane business or to Indonesia?
So the US case is for process cranes, basically.
Yes.
Process cranes, yeah. Okay,
Yes.
okay, good. And the order you highlight with the value, is that sort of the only sizable order in that announcement?
The chip order that we have given, or there we have given the amount, and that is of course a sizable order for industrial cranes and also for process cranes. And this is part of the program that we were discussing also already earlier, but let's say one part of the bigger program that we have been having with the customer.
Yes, so I think this was now a fifth order, recurring order. So we have booked these every now and then. I think the last time around was in Q1 last year, if I now remember correctly. And the reason for why we are disclosing the amount for this order is that it's a public information, and the government themselves have come out with that information in the US. So it would be then very kind of odd if we did not disclose the number. But overall, when it comes to the process crane orders, so this is very sizable one. So usually the process crane orders, they are not this big. So some of you might remember that in the past we have every now and then highlighted in the interim reports that, you know, the higher orders in the quarter or in the comparison quarter were due to a single large process crane order. So those single large process crane orders, they have been these kinds of US Navy-like orders. So generally the process crane orders are lower in value. Yes.
And in terms of big orders, typically that's more related to the port side. Have you sort of seen any? I mean, you haven't announced anything, but in our numbers, should we pencil in, you know, 50 or 100 million type of single big order there as well, or how has it developed?
Well, we have been saying that we have in the sales funnel, we have basically potentials of all sizes, smaller ones, mid-sized ones, and some bigger ones as well. And then, of course, the decision-making timing is always a question. And I guess that to add there, so we have also said that, I mean, the process crane order intake in general probably will continue on the same level where it approximately has been over the past couple of quarters. And then there can be, let's say, deviations up or down depending on the timing. But the funnel is healthy from the point of view that there are, let's say, potential deals of all sizes, basically.
Now I was referring to port solution. You mentioned process crane, but it's port solution you're talking about.
In port solution, yes. Sorry if I said process cranes. I meant port solutions. So port solutions.
He was talking about port solutions. I can confirm that.
Just wondering.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Well, that was basically my question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Johan. And then I think Erkki's hand is raised. So Erkki, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Teo and Kiira. You said after Q3 that customers, especially in process cranes, they are kind of holding back their decisions while they await interest rates to decline. Could you provide us any update on that?
The situation is probably more or less the same as it was. So we are still seeing slowness in decision making regarding the process cranes. Obviously, now we have one big order there that we have announced. So this slowness doesn't mean that customers would not do decisions eventually. And this is maybe one indication of that as well, so that actually the decisions do take place. But the overall view is that even though the funnel as such is healthy and on a good level, so the movement within the funnel has slowed down. So there are new cases coming in, and the existing ones are moving ahead in the funnel, but that is happening slower than maybe in so-called normal situations, or slower than what we would hope it to be. But there is no significant change currently in comparison to what it has been already several months back.
Thanks. So the kind of the size of the funnel is increasing all the time. Right.
The size of the funnel is let's say stable, and in some cases it has even increased because of the slowness. I don't know if one can think that would be a good sign as such, because if it's of the slowness, I think that the conclusion can be that it is relatively stable, and that actually now we're talking about process cranes, but of course. And important is also what happens in the standard cranes, and they're the same commentary as we have been having earlier as well. So the funnel size is surprisingly stable in comparison to what we can think is happening all around in the world. So that one maybe could expect a little bit more movement, but it has been surprisingly stable.
Okay, and a final one regarding this. So you have not seen any project cancellations or clear postponements?
We have seen, let's say, we have not seen cancellations out of the ordinary. We have seen some postponements from the point of view that the customers have been late in their own projects. And then I think that I wouldn't be able to say that we wouldn't have seen any postponements as a result of the, let's say, overall geopolitical or economical situation for that matter. And I guess that the slowness in the decision making when we talk about the process crane may partially be as a result of that. But there hasn't been any dramatic change since let's say a couple of months ago. And regarding the cancellations, that would definitely be a clear signal to the worse. So in cancellations, we haven't seen any significant movement in the recent past.
Fair enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erkki. Then I can see that Antti has raised his hand. So please, Antti, go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Kiira. Hi, Teo. I wanted to come back to something that I guess we discussed on the Q3 results as well, which is kind of the ports business backlog and kind of the timing of that going into next year. Just trying to kind of scope the level of volumes you have kind of booked already for next year versus where we were, let's say, a year ago regarding 24. I think you mentioned that it's perhaps not as dramatic as the year-over-year decline on the backlog would indicate.
Now the numbers are what they are, so one can think if it is dramatic or not. But I mean, maybe the commentary what you are referring to was more in relation to the overall size of the order book. So it is clearly down. So if we take a look at the situation at the end of Q3, so there's no denying that. I mean, if you take a look at the group order book, so it's maybe 430 million. Down year on year, and port solutions is maybe 250 out of that or something like that. I think that the overall picture, if we now go back to the third quarter situation, is that when we take a look at the decline in the port solutions order book in particular, so the decline is not for the current year. So when we take a look at the fourth quarter of 24, so the order book is not lower than what it was a year ago for the current year. So the delta that we have in the order book is in 25 or beyond. And unfortunately, we haven't been giving on a quarterly basis the exact timing per year regarding the order book. You will then be able to see that in the annual report. But we have stated that the majority of that delta decline is for 25. So for the year 1+, which is then not the current one, but the next one, which in this case is 25 in comparison to what it was a year ago for 24. So of course it is clear that it is in a way lower. And then when we compare it to what it has historically been, so it's not that bad in a way. But of course, I mean, in a year-on-year comparison, there is a clear decline in the order book, and that cannot be denied.
Okay. And then another question was more on the industrial equipment profitability. I mean, let's assume that next year would be similar in terms of volumes. Do you still have let's say the self-help actions that are addressing more on the cost side, which are kind of independent on volumes left for next year? Are there still kind of an potential to do stronger margins, what you have done, let's say now on a rolling basis, assuming you don't get any kind of more volume into the production side?
We have still part of the optimization program benefits to be reaped in 25. So as we have now been talking about 23 and 24, so we are 10 million plus, and then we had 22, couple of millions plus the service benefits. So we still have room to improve, and the plan is to be able to get that in 25 as well. So the benefit or the expectation of a benefit is there. And this is maybe now when we take a look at the activities that we are doing, maybe more process crane related than standard or component related, because those decisions and activities have to a large extent been at least decided, and they are also being implemented. And we are ramping up new product platforms, as you probably have noticed as well, which is of course a sort of a lever as well going forward. But of course, I mean, we haven't given guidance for 25, and like Kiira pointed out, the idea is not to give it in this call either, so we cannot really go into too many details regarding that.
Yep, sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Antti. And then Tom, I think you are the next one, so please go ahead with your question.
Yes, thank you, Kiira. Given what is happening with interest rates and the dollar, I would like to get an update on the dollar exposure after all these kind of changes in what products and components you make where. So this also relates to the tariff discussion on industrial equipment. So how big is the kind of import of components from European factories to the US, i.e. the transactional dollar exposure?
There haven't been maybe major changes structurally from the, let's say, in comparison between different currency areas, and in this case, of course, Euro, USD in particular. So the, let's say, exposure is in the big picture more or less the same. The structure that we have is that many of the, let's say, technology parts, technology content that we are using in hoists that are being sold in the US. So the technology part is imported from Europe, and that would be then basically Finland or Germany. And as a result of that, basically potential tariffs between EU and US would play a role. The question is then, of course, that if those kind of tariffs would be in place, so how much would our situation be different from the competitors' situation? And that difference might not be huge, but if we just take a look at the cost structure for our company, so tariff between Europe and US would increase the costs in the US, because part of the key technology is imported from Europe.
But this import on components, it's like 20 million euros annually or something, or how big?
We haven't. Yeah, we haven't unfortunately given the exact volume of that, but it is primarily in relation to standard lifting, let's say hoist part, which is the hoist, the core hoist technology, which is largely manufactured in Europe or in China, but there are tariffs between China and US as well.
And how will you describe the dollar exposure?
So it is
10% change in the euro dollar, or how big is the impact on EBIT, or how do you want to define it?
The transaction impact is roughly so it is now I don't recall if we have changed it, so this is maybe something that we will need to come back to regarding the transaction impact.
I don't think we have actually changed what we have said during the past years related to that, and I think that overall we have said regarding the translation and transaction impact that I mean overall when it comes to FX, so more than 40% of our sales is in euros and more than 20% in US dollars, and then all the rest represent less than 10% each, and the Swedish krona is one of the biggest, obviously, since we have lift trucks business in Sweden, and then the translation impact on profit is roughly the same percentage as for sales, and the transaction impact, so there we have then used this kind of rule of thumb that it's approximately 10 million euros on EBIT or EBITDA if there is a 10% change in euro or US dollar, and that excludes then of course the project business, which is hedged separately, and the project business is quite big. So I don't know, Teo, is there reason to update this? This is what we have said.
Yeah, I think you are right. So there is probably no reason to update this. I mean, the volumes haven't changed so much that there would be any particular need to change that. This is, of course,
was the exposure both translation and transactional, or only translation?
Transaction was the 10 million and 10%.
But that was the transactional.
Transaction and translation is kind of the same for sales, same percentage for sales and for profitability.
Exactly. If the currencies are impacting sales with a certain percentage, so then one should maybe assume that it's roughly the same for the EBIT. But regarding that, of course, no impact to the EBITDA margin.
What has happened to the straddle carrier factory in Germany that you announced now 5 months ago that you are kind of investing or considering to sell and so on?
Well, let's say so that the consideration is still ongoing. So there hasn't been any major impact one way or the other regarding that one. So the scope of doing things is similar to what it has been. So no major changes so far.
No decisions have been taken.
Yeah. And then on this modularization of your industrial crane product. So I understand we will not get any exact feeling, but if you just think about some kind of an S-curve about the EBIT benefits from modularization, what are the big years? Is it the savings larger 25 than 24? Is 26 smaller or other? I mean, can you give some kind of feeling for when the big savings from modularization helps?
Modularization is basically embedded into the changes that we are doing within the optimization, and this modularization is primarily, of course, maybe mostly impacting the process crane area, because that's where the let's say multitude of platforms and different kind of solutions has maybe been the biggest, and there, of course, the idea, like already now discussed, is that quite a big part of those also process crane related decisions would have been done by the end of next year. So that, and then of course the tail impact can be a little bit longer as well. But it's not, modularization is not a separate program from the optimization. So it's embedded into the programs.
Yeah, but you have just said that you roll out first in some countries and then in other countries, and but it's just hard for us to understand, these savings. Is 24 incremental, a bigger savings year, or 25 the biggest year, or how do you see, just what year is kind of the biggest in terms of savings from this?
We have actually commented that regarding the optimization program, the positive impact was 11 million euros last year, and that we expect similar kind of 11 million euros this year. And we have not commented 25 yet, so we will need to come back to that. And this positive impact is now related to the whole project, the optimization project, not only to the modularization of process cranes. And the modularization of process cranes, so that's kind of, if we compare now electric chain hoist, wire rope hoists, which are more like standard equipment, and then the process cranes. So the standard equipment product platform harmonization is further compared to the process crane. And that is also natural because there are longer delivery times in the process crane business. So basically decisions have been made, but there remains still work to be done in the modularization of process cranes. Let's put it that way. Hey, we have only a couple of minutes to go. So and we have 4 people now who have raised their hands. So I maybe suggest that we now take a question from Tomi Railo. And Tomi, if you are really quick, so then we also have time to take a question from Mikael still during this call.
Maybe, hey, sorry, Tomi, before you ask your question, I maybe still as a continuing to Tom's question regarding the modularization. So if you were referring to the standard side, let's say ramp-up plan, so that's maybe not that much modularization because that is a new platform. Yes. That we are ramping up. So it's part of the optimization, but maybe modularization is not exactly the right term. Modularization is more for the process cranes, and this is like ramping up a new product generation, which then will be hopefully benefiting us later on. But Tomi, please.
Yep. Thank you, Kiira and Teo. Quickly, any comments on the services? I get the overall comments, but the services demand, the utilization among customers, any decision making or choices whether they want to save or spend. And secondly, anything in terms of mix impacts in the fourth quarter, industrial or ports deliveries you would want to comment. Thanks.
I don't know. I don't think that there are major changes regarding the service customers' views or let's say topics there. Maybe regarding the product mix for the fourth quarter, it is of course good to remember that the product mix always, usually, and I guess that this time as well, is weaker towards the end of the year than during the other quarters. And of course, the seasonality has not been similar now in the, for example, last year than what it has been previously, and mix is of course part of that. So that's maybe the only let's say additional comment onto the mix thing, that Q4 mix usually is weakish in comparison to the other quarters.
And then please, Mikael, you can go ahead with your question.
Yep. Very briefly. So first question is really on the guidance, and I'm gonna give a guidance, but any plans to change the way you guide, or are you gonna go with a similar way that you have done in the past years? And the second question is related to the tariffs. So I guess Columbus McKinnon is a big competitor to you in the US. How do you see yourself positioned? I mean, in terms of various products compared to them. Just wondering if they can get a big benefit if there would be a big tariff on Europe. Thank you.
Not knowing exactly what kind of a supply chain Columbus McKinnon, for example, would be having, but our understanding is that quite many of our competitors are also getting componentry from Europe. And it may be that Columbus McKinnon is not an exception in that case, even because they obviously bought one asset from us in connection to our MHPS acquisition, and that asset happens to be in Europe. So there may be some Europe-US sort of transactions there as well. So I'm not saying that it wouldn't create differences between different companies, but I would not necessarily exaggerate the impact of those ones. Then, of course, there are product categories like in the ports for lift trucks, for example, that are where we have US-based competitors. So and not knowing their supply chains, but it might be more American than ours, where the manufacturing is happening in Europe and APAC. The guidance topic. I guess that the guidance, the method of giving guidance will be decided when the time is due for that. We are relatively happy with the way that we have been guiding so far. I don't know how you feel it, but from our point of view, at least now, no immediate reasons why everything should be changed come to mind.
Okay, that's very fair. Thank you.
Great. Hey, we are already on overtime, unfortunately, so need to wrap up here. But if you have any additional questions or something, so our IR team will be still in the office today and tomorrow. So please feel free to reach out either by email or by telephone call. And I think that now is the right time to thank you all for a great and good cooperation this year, active participation in all our events and so on. And wish you all happy holidays. And we will talk then next year at the latest. So happy New Year also to everyone.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.
Thank you.